about WorldCoin today. So recently there was an event that World had where they outlined a whole bunch of their plans for how they're going to do things differently, their major upgrades to what they're doing with their platform. They did a pretty good YouTube video describing all of this stuff. So there's this 5 key announcements from the event that happened last week. Lucas, I know you had a chance to see some of the video and catch up on some of this stuff. What's your initial thoughts on WorldCoin and what Sam Altman has done here in his partnership with Sam Bankman-Fried?
Funny to bring up Sam Bankman-Fried. My thoughts are that ideas of identifying or authentication of identity according to biometrics is a very dangerous solution for the problem of verifying identity. As I was watching this, I thought about the way that we identify somebody in a courtroom is not to go ask them for their driver's license or their passport, but to find people who actually know them and have people identify them from actions that they've had in the past with a person.
Well,
And
now the way that you're going to identify somebody, according to Sam Altman, is you're going to stick your face into one of these things.
well, if and when we do so, if that is the only method of identifying somebody, then the holder of that data and the manager of that system is going to have a whole lot of power. And I think that the way that this actually that we're going to have authentication is that we're going to have multiple identifiers, multiple authenticators. And so building some sort of system that provides the protocol for that, the security for that is one thing, but the jump that WorldCoin makes with collecting biometric data, um, and is not also adding some sort of coin into that too, and some sort of ecosystem. I it seems dangerous to me. So that they have also been collecting this biometric data in the poorest countries of the world and not uh, in rich countries in the United States, in Western Europe, smacks to me of I don't know how to put this.
Digital colonialism.
Yeah, okay, there we go, Grant. That's probably the best summation of what I fear that we see here is digital colonialism. And we were promised good intentions with the likes of the internet, but we know it's one great attention market. What are they going to be sold? How is their information going to be abused? Is what I worry about here.
Well, you definitely have a lot of companies that want to brand themselves the next Apple. Look at this. I mean, the branding out of this is straight out of the Apple playbook with just like very stark white, product shot. This to me, if this looks just like an Apple product, if I didn't know better.
It looks like the child of a Google and an Apple product. Yes, it
Yeah.
does.
There was this article that Rusty you brought to our attention about that Forbes did where they leveled a lot of criticism on this, saying essentially what we were just talking about, that they were doing this in some of the poorest countries, that there was an incentive that was supposed to be given to the people who got their iris scanned, but apparently the people who went out there with the orbs and started scanning people were pocketing most of the money, and World got the biometric data. So it seems like everybody is being enriched except for the people that Sam Altman said he was going to enrich with digital identity.
Well, that was one of the points I was going to get to with Lucas was speaking when he was talking about the certain areas of the world that the WorldCoin is trying to exploit. And when I think about it, this is a blockchain technology. This is a internet-based technology. A lot of these places in the world where they're absorbing this data and collecting this data isn't going to have access to a wallet and understand how to even use the tokens that are being dropped to them or what's going to be the benefit of getting this information. And one of the things in that article that you're stating on the screen, it says that Vitalik Buterin was worried about how much extra information you can be gained by scanning the iris of the eye. And it might not be just what they're saying that they're trying to gather, as Lucas was also stating.
Yeah, I think one of the criticisms of this orb is that the way that the data collection is structured, it's clearly capturing more than just the iris data.
Well, and we see also that nation states are have have what is AI being used for? It's being used to identify and track people. Um, it's mildly threatening to think about our attention being sold behind our backs, our world curated in ways that we don't understand. That's one level of intrusion. If it gets into the hand of nation states, and think back to what we've seen with regards to the likes of Telegram and and all of these companies that want to operate with autonomy from state governments and start with good intentions, but at some point uh, have to give back doors to a nation state, or the nation state figures out how to get into it and to use that system. And so this is alarming to me to think that you feed your biometric information into this, and it gets picked up, and you can be identified on every camera everywhere where you walk around. um and
Well, they try to dispel that notion. They said that they're not doing that specifically. We'll have to take a look at the documentation. I guess it comes down to whether you believe that that's actually what's going on here. I thought it'd be interesting to play a little bit of a clip from the video where they talk about these identity centers that they're setting up. You want to see that quick?
Sure, go ahead and set that up. But while you're setting it up, I just also wanted to make a comment that they talk about a universal basic income, and part of the what they're trying to achieve here is I don't know, spreading the wealth of the world um, using blockchain and the internet networks to spread wealth and to create some sort of universal basic income. But I don't understand how that works. And I don't think that they actually do either in any way.
I'm excited to share the flagship locations with you today also. These are premium verification experiences. We have staff there available to answer any questions people have. We've opened our first two flagship locations in Buenos Aires and Mexico City just a couple weeks ago. This is our Mexico City location that opened just a few weeks back. I think they really look amazing. Next, we're expanding access to orbs through self-serve verifications. Think of these as orbs inside existing retail locations, so your neighborhood convenience store or local coffee shop like you see behind me. These enable people to both discover the project through seeing an orb in a retail environment, or specifically going to that retail store with the intent to verify with an orb. These partnerships are key to scaling the orb locations and getting more distributed in a region. They're providing access to even more people than we do today.
So that's how they're going to expand their reach of being able to get more people verified, putting it in coffee shops, and now you can go in and do your identity verification when you get your latte at Starbucks.
Go ahead, Lucas.
Oh, I'm taking a deep breath, a deep chilled breath here. It it's smooth, it's beautiful, but what's behind it? Where are they making their money? I mean, to me, it's apparent that they're going to be making their money by selling our attention.
Well, I mean, I think there's this call within the world to make the everything app. So China already has this with it's WeChat, right? So that has already occurred, at least in China. And Elon Musk has said he wants to make X the everything app where you can have payments and identity and social media and it's all integrated. I'll queue up one more clip from this video where they start to talk about World making their own everything app because it has an integrated wallet. It's got a whole bunch of things in it. It's pretty ambitious idea for what they want to create, and it looks like they've actually gotten some amount of progress towards it. So let me get that queued up real quick, and we'll watch another clip from the video.
While you're queuing that up, I'll make a quick mention on that last video I saw. It was looking like they were using their cell phones for a lot of the interaction with the orb for the world coin or the world platform. And it just, makes me think of how easy it could be to SIM swap or just to steal somebody's phone and just have access to all that ability and just not really taking it straight from the eye, but straight from a phone. And, how somebody could, scam or take that identity and use it maliciously.
Well, their response to that, I imagine, Rusty, is turn on your optical scanner on your phone. But for anyone who's not using that, I think you're absolutely right that that there's a vulnerability there. But Grant, go ahead, play it up.
But of course, we didn't stop there. So today, I'm very excited to share with you that we're going to introduce mini apps to World App. Mini apps are third-party applications that you can explore and use right from inside of the app, and they can integrate deeply with your World ID, with your wallet, and with your contacts to provide you a new type of products and services that were not possible before. So let's look at what they look like. Starting today, when you open World App, you'll be greeted by a new Apps tab, where you can see the apps that you have installed, and they're ready to be used just one tap away. When you want a new app, you can simply go to the App Store. You can explore things by categories, search, or even the top charts. And when you see something that you're interested in, you can tap it to look into the details, knowing that you can trust things like how many people are using it, or that the ratings are real, because all of this is powered by World ID. So let's look at a few examples so that you can get a better sense of the type of things you can do with mini apps. The first one is a polls app. It's super simple. It allows you to create a poll, share it on your social media, and for the first time ever, know that the results are actually real and they aren't being skewed by bots that are trying to go one way or another. Now, it doesn't all have to be serious. It turns out that games are also way better when they're built on top of a human network. It's just much more fun to play against real humans rather than bots that are cheating. My personal favorite is Flappy Orb, and you should check it out. And it is, of course, just as hard as the classic game that this is inspired by. Now, just as mini apps can integrate deeply with World ID to be able to provide unique services, they can also integrate deeply with your contacts and your wallet. So an example of that is WorldChat. WorldChat is a messaging application. It's encrypted. It's built on top of the World Network. That means you can text anyone by their username or with your contacts. And you can, of course, do things like attach a picture or a voice memo on the spot. But because it's connected to your wallet, you can also just attach money right then and there. You can send money right on the spot across the world without any fees, without any pain. And of course, because WorldChat is running inside of World App, you also know whether the person that you're texting with is a verified human. So if they are, you'll see them coming up with a blue bubble. And if they're not, there will be a gray bubble. And so, which is super useful to just know when you need to be more careful in different conversations. Now, these are just a few examples of the endless number of things you could build with these new primitives. And we can't wait to see what developers like build with this. If you're curious about how to build a mini app, there will be a full session dedicated today.
All right. So I think that firmly gives you an idea of the app that they're trying to build here on top of the world identity. So you have verified identity. You know that the people you're talking to are humans. It's got this integrated messaging thing. Got integrated payments. This is WeChat. This is exactly what has already occurred in China. Now they're hoping to build this for the entire world, and yeah, all running through the world infrastructure and on world chain as well.
Well, WeChat works hand in hand with the Chinese government, and I don't have any problem with that. And it doesn't make any assumptions to be different than that. That 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 world, WorldCoin, whatever. I think this is just World now, World Inc. Thinks that that is going to operate with autonomy um, from state governments. To me, is why alarm bells just clanging in my ears right now. Like when I see also that the application that they throw up to highlight is polls, and it says one human, one vote. I think about the uh, the the line that our State Department has used to subvert state governments around the world, and that is democracy, democracy, democracy. When we don't live in a democracy, we live in a democratic republic, and the long arc of the the history of democracies is that uh, I don't know, how did Plato put it, like or Socrates put it. It's a bunch of arguments about things that don't matter. And so there are assumptions that are made here that just give me great pause. I also think about Facebook, and the launch of Facebook in as a correlation to that. We mentioned Apple earlier, but to me, when I look at why Facebook succeeded where others didn't, and there were other companies that were trying to, you know, bring social networking to get people to open up about their lives and to ease their them sharing whatever was going on in their mind at the time. The part that Facebook got right was that it came from Harvard, and if maybe it stole its ideas from the Winklevoss twins, but the Winklevoss twins were trying to make exclusive clubs. They wanted Connect You to be modeled after the Porcellian Club in Harvard. And if you know anything about the Ivy League institutions, it's one thing to be in a class at those institutions, but your identity is secured by your involvement in clubs. And I think if we don't have if we have companies that don't understand, especially companies that are in trying to break open the door of authentic identity and don't understand that our identities need to be confirmed by groups of other people and that we want to have multiple identities, then I think that the future of what happens there can be and probably will be dystopian.
So another part of the announcement was World Chain has migrated to a new crypto. So this was another part of what happened. So they're moving to, what is this, optimism? Isn't that right?
I thought it was Superchain.
Superchain.
And I think optimism, and listen to this. It's open to everybody, and the application is called optimism, and it's on the super chain. Um, what could go wrong?
One of the things that they talked about was if you're a real human, that you would have reduced fees or zero fees transacting on World. I thought that was kind of an interesting idea. See, look at this. Priority block space for humans.
Could be. It's a good idea, and maybe their idea is that that the commerce organizations or companies will be paying for it. It's sort of how Google works. We get all these packages for free on Google, and when you get into corporate or business packages, they end up paying for it. But that's also not actually how Google works. That's what Google claims, but in the background, Google um, sells our attention, and not just sells our attention. It it colludes with other companies like Facebook, and manipulates the market in the attention economy. It's gotten in a lot of trouble with that, but uh, I I don't know why it wouldn't continue to do so, um, because that is a powerful and a great way to make money, is to sell somebody an ad that nobody's going to see, and then turn around to other companies that you want to promote and sell them to ads that are targeted to people that will be interested in it. So anyway, what else do we have here? I see Hubble telescope. What are they doing with the Hubble telescope?
Wait, what? Hubble telescope?
I thought I saw Hubble telescope in that blurb of text.
No, I think I just pulled up the doc about how the new chain is going to work. It's an L2 on Ethereum, more scalable. Some complaining about how some of the scalability things didn't work the way that they had hoped, but
There it is. Early ideas in Hubble and compression contracts. Sam Altman is a name we haven't mentioned. Sam Altman is the banner name behind this WorldCoin project, and Sam Altman has been associated the mind behind the AI project of ChatGPT and OpenAI. Um, we also mentioned Sam Bankman-Fried as being an earlier investor in this project, and there's a worldview that OpenAI and Sam Bankman-Fried held that I don't know how sustainable it is. And I think a lot of it has to do with the world that has been made by the uh, the the $1 one world that we have lived in for so long. And we talk here about how the BRICS network, the original design of the world currency exchange system was not supposed to be denominated in one currency, but some presumptions that these companies make are inherent in that one world system. So as we see the BRICS taking off, I don't know how this works, and I say that in part also because when I look at the the sector of AI and the amount of energy it takes for the computation of AI, as opposed to traditional logarithms or even doing something by hand, in part I see a business model that is sustained by very cheap money, and and it becomes a place that is where these SaaS companies that expect 45x returns, it's a magic box that they can place unrealistic ideas into and expect that return and sell it off to the next person. Um, I don't know how long they can pass the buck before somebody gets caught holding it. So anyway, I don't mean to go on. I don't mean to go on to the whole episode about my trepidations with WorldCoin and OpenAI, but these are
Well,
some of the
there's
things.
definitely an interaction here. So I thought this was an interesting part. This is it from almost the beginning of the talk, the presentation. And if you see point number 4 there, the idea behind creating a human network, using it to make the benefits of AI accessible to everyone. So I think you said it earlier, and maybe we won't even play part of this clip, where they're thinking about creating a universal basic income to distribute the results of AI eating all the jobs on the planet. So it's this, I think, very dystopian idea that AI will do everything on the planet. It will be controlling all these robots that are essentially doing all the interesting labor that exists on this planet, and all that economic activity, whatever is occurring there, that it's capturing all of that. And then you, slave, get some of it back because you have a world ID and you get your allocation of carrots and hay and soy, that you can use to sustain yourself, because there's no opportunity for you to actually have a job. This is seems like what they're proposing in some sense.
Yeah, it puts me in mind, as you mentioned, as you talk about that, of Khrushchev and I believe it was Nixon. Are you familiar with the talk that they have in a kitchen back in the 50s, the Khrushchev kitchen conversation?
I think we've actually had that on the screen on the show recently, not too long ago, because you brought it up. But from that conversation, that was my first introduction to it, the kitchen conversations. Yeah.
Well, and part of this, part of this narrative of modernity is that we're going to have these machines that take work away from us. And maybe we do want that at some level, but I don't know how true that is. I think that I think that part of the
I
conundrum.
think for some jobs, definitely. I mean, if you think about a really dangerous job, like, I don't know, maybe coal mining, and I don't mean to pick on coal mining, but it just is something that comes to mind because you're in kind of a dangerous spot. I think a lot of mining already is done with machines, right? Like, you're definitely not down there with a pickaxe and hauling things out with a wheelbarrow. That's not really what's going on. But if you think about some really dangerous thing where you can get hurt, I mean, one of the robots that I had built in the past, the reason it was created is because people were getting hurt actually making the parts for the F-35. And so, whenever you have something where humans are in danger, getting hurt, or there is a dangerous environment, I could think of maybe what happened at Fukushima, right? Where they sent a bunch of humans in to shut things off and do certain things. If robots could have went in there and done that and not have given people lethal exposure to radiation, that seems like a pretty good opportunity for a robot or an AI or something like that to do that job, because that's a death sentence for the person that walks in there and does that. They're essentially going to get cancer and die within a couple of days from that level of radiation exposure. So I could see anything like that, but I agree. I don't know if we want to just cede the entire planet to robots and AI. That doesn't sound like there's a real human existence there. Like, what are people going to do? Frolic in the fields?
I don't know that they're going to frolic in fields. And it's a great point about the coal mining. But as you were making it, I thought, it's no, but I don't know that anyone, except except for Ben Stiller, wants to go work in a coal mine. But we don't necessarily need coal to heat ourselves. And well, I was thinking, like, chopping wood is, there are alternatives, and there are, quote unquote, bucolic alternatives. And yes, you can get hurt cutting down trees and chopping wood, but you know go look at Patagonia advertisements, and what is the world that they are idolizing? It's this bucolic world in which we are living off of wood. And when we were down mining coal with big machines and extracting it? Was it because we were just heating our homes, or was it because we were making all of these other machines, and other machines that were taking the place of humans doing a little bit of work? So, and you bring up an F-35 too. Yay, it's incredibly technically sophisticated, but it's a machine that was designed to perpetuate a system of a very classified system, in which a country is using force and coercion to make other parts of the world or make other groups of people do what they want. So, and sadly, when I think about like machines as solutions, I think that that comes hand in hand with them, and so that open, or that WorldCoin thinks that they're going to perpetuate or enhance the I don't have an expectation that everything is going to be done for us by machines. There will be people who make and control the machines, and those who apparently scan their iris and get a little bit of coin, and um, that's going to be, to me, a great class division between who's running the system and who's using it.
Well, it certainly brings up concepts of what does it mean to be a human. I think there's this little aphorism that I sometimes repeat, which is work gives life the illusion of meaning. I think that people, like, if their jobs are suddenly taken by AI and robots, a lot of people are going to find themselves adrift and will probably turn to very self-destructive behaviors. So I'm not sure how this can actually play out well. Like, there's no point in human past where humans haven't had to work to exist. And if there's this idea that we can somehow exist on this planet and not have to work, I just don't imagine that we're going to find that a lot of people can constructively use their time other than devolving into some sort of self-destructive drug use, video game playing, mindless consumption of media. I just don't know where the world goes if there's not something meaningful for a lot of people to do.
Well, to me, this is where technology can be of benefit, is understanding that people, I think part of the assumptions that are made here is that people don't want to work. But people do want to work, they just don't want to work all the time. And they don't want to do the same thing over and over and over.
The
And
the repetitive task of just like assembling some small widget and them essentially being some sort of a robot.
yeah, no, people want to be craftsmen, but they, some of the assumptions that we make, or that we've used, quote unquote, work to structure the world around, we you can't, if people are working just to put food on the table, that's a whole different experience in going to work, or working, than filling your time. So I do think that there is something about society taking care of all of the members in the society, but also understanding and expecting the people in that society to be doing something, and to be
Well,
making
see, but
something.
I don't necessarily think that the people who are at that central planning committee are going to make good choices. I think in a lot of ways they make really bad choices, and I don't agree with their choices. And I'd hate to live under a world, at least I think I would, where it's controlled by some people who think that they know what's best for me or my family, and that they're going to grow certain foods with certain types of whatever, and then that's going to be the thing that I can buy with my allocation of my UBI. I just can't imagine a more dystopian future than this. Like, I don't know.
Well, I think because, and I agree, but I think the answer to it is having a whole bunch of those systems, and like WeChat, like, a country the size of China may be a little bit scary, but if you have the if you have the network, the systems that are bound to the state, bound to the government, but they're very small, and people can move from from location to location to location, I think that's better than having some assumption that you're going to have uh, a world network that operates with autonomy from local governments, from state governments.
So do the Mennonites get to opt out of this system? You know?
You know, the minute the do you know do you know why the do you know about the Mennonites and the province of Alberta in Canada?
Well, I'm familiar with the Mennonites and the way that they operate, that they're very selective about the types of technologies that they allow into their communities. Things like, I don't know, they can't have a smartphone, but it's okay to have a centralized telephone that exists at some spot. And there are certain types of machines that they're allowed to use, but others that they aren't. And they're thoughtful and careful about the specific technologies that they pick. But tell me more about this specific community up in Canada.
Well, the entire province of Alberta was a province that was created for Mennonites, and you are right about the reticence to embrace technology or to use technology that Mennonites and Amish and other Anabaptists have. It has to do with well, but that said, I know a fair few Mennonites who use iPhones. But you know, they're also pacifist, and a lot of well, you know, we live in the Great Plains, and there are many Lutherans. Where did all these Lutherans, Mennonites, and Quakers come from? Um, a lot of them came over from former Russia because they did the uh, you know, many Mennonites had left Western Europe into the Russian steppe to farm there under Catherine the Great, who was a German princess who married a Russian czar, and she called the Germans over to farm the Russian steppes, the Ukraine, where we're having a war now. This is some of the history of the Ukrainian war. And after she died, her son, I believe it was Peter the Great, removed the prohibition that they had to serve in the military. And so this is the reason they came to the United States. They were looking for that system that allowed them to operate with autonomy. And the United States, many of
Were,
them
were
moved
the
in.
were the Amish or the Quakers one of the inspirations that Robert Jordan had for his Tinkers? Do you know if
I
he
would
used?
I would say absolutely so. Absolutely. Because of their notions of peace. I also think a lot about gypsies when I like the gypsies in Western Europe too. And not only that, but you know, they're also when you start digging into these notions of work and society, you can also dig back into monastic concepts and sort of like Coptic or Egyptian monastic communities where work was expected, or the alternative was the Syrian monastic communities in which you had a rich landowner that took pride and popped his suspenders because he could support a group of people who were praying for them, and that's becomes this notion of um, anyway. This this tension between how work fits into society is not new. Long story short, with Mennonites, though, Canada actually carved out an entire province in their western lands and devoted it to Mennonites and said you know, the quid pro quo is Mennonites who want to come here and farm and contribute to our gross domestic product will never be asked to join the Canadian military, and that is part of why um, Canada Canada is not as colonial or not as militant as the United States, maybe.
Interesting stuff in the world of digital identity. Definitely need to keep an eye on what world's doing. Apparently, you can get these orbs. I might actually order one just to tear it down and see all the stuff that's inside it. It'd be pretty fun to take it apart and mess around with it. I don't think I'm going to be scanning my iris and submitting it to Sam Altman, but looks like a fun piece of technology to play with.
There's also, we've talked about 23andMe on here before, and I did actually submit to a foreign box in which to put some of my information that may be sensitive. And I do think about that. I wonder if it was a mistake, but I wanted to know things that I could not, about my DNA, that I couldn't technically figure out myself. So but now that 23andMe is bankrupt, and that information is possibly for sale, it gives me a little bit of cause to worry. And that could also be the future of WorldCoin. Sam Altman and the people who are behind WorldCoin might have the best of intentions, but who only knows what happens with them in the future? And if they've collected all of that data, um, it just makes me very nervous. So I don't mean to be so negative about WorldCoin, but gosh, it makes me nervous.
It just seems like every time statements get made, and I think OpenAI is a great example of this, came out with the best of intentions. They said that they were going to be a nonprofit. This was AI for the world. Oh, but now it's turning to a for-profit company. And yeah, all that stuff we said just doesn't seem to be what they had intended at all. So I would agree that apprehension and nervousness about like what's going on here is probably the right thing. I'd be interested to see how much world partners up with governments, because certainly this kind of a thing seems to be the purview of governments, and I can't imagine that a lot of governments are going to be too happy to just hand this over to Sam Altman and their team without some involvement from them. We'll have to watch on what's happening. But yeah, big conference. Definitely worth checking out the video to see all the stuff that happened last week. Watch
what
for
they
at your local Starbucks.
what they should do is put sensors in basketballs and collect collect information about physics. Now that might be a better orb, a better path for them forward. But whatever, we'll keep an eye on it, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.